Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good afternoon and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 6 and Episode 909 of the Daily Beaver, in this case, kind of, sort of, morning show, depending where you are in the country, for maybe about 3 minutes more. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian. The cup is back. And of course, since it's the birthday, why not be a little greedy? Always beaverific. Why not have 2 cups of beaver moistener? You never know. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver. Pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. And there is something on my screen here that I apparently cannot get rid of. Oh, there it is. I'm learning something new about this software here today. Let's see. And how is your mental health doing today? Things going well at my end. My beaver sweetie, since we did not take the car in to get the engine replaced, that's going to be tomorrow, offered, not knowing I had told you all I was going to do a bonus beaver around noon, offered me a birthday breakfast, a surprise birthday breakfast. And so, well, of course, it's love, so you can't say no. So I had posted something saying that I would be coming on a little later, and I do not know what happened, but everything I did said I did everything right, and I got the confirmation, and I got here, and I was about to go live, and there was nothing there. So it's like, on the way there, like, programming it, and I'm thinking, I'm being responsible. I got this out there, giving people, 4 hours notice, 4 or 5 hours notice of what time the show is going to be, and nothing appeared at all. So I'm sorry. I really did try, but yeah, it didn't work. But no matter, because you're here now and I'm here now, and we are going to have a little bit of chat today and catch up on some stuff that we missed last week. Because last week was a particularly busy week, especially considering, if I'm not mistaken, the House is not sitting. I know that there was a scheduled 2-week break and then a final 4-week sitting, I should say, before they break for the summer. So I'm not sure if it was last week and this week where the House is not sitting and then they come back, or if this is the first week and things kind of get the week. The time kind of sort of blended over the last 10 days, well, more than 10 days now, about 12 or 13 with everything that's been going on around here. But today is the first real day of normalcy in about 2 weeks. So yeah, it's I don't even know, if it weren't the fact that there was my birthday and my sweetie's birthday, and those were like 2 really like impossible to forget anchors, I'd probably not know where in the month I am right now, to be totally honest. Man, but I'm having a wonderful birthday. Again, very, very, very low key, but that's fine. That's fine. If I'm gonna whoop it up, it's gonna be a little later on in the week. But today it's my Beaver sweetie and me, and just some lovely time and some decompressing time for me. Uh, a day where it would be just me and him, and not extra people. Right now, considering the waves and waves and waves of people that have been coming, I'm that's the best gift, actually. So I am doing very well. Thank you. And the only the only disappointing thing today is that we looked up to see when my physiotherapist is next available, so we can do something for my neck, and it's not before the 10th of June, which is not satisfactory at all. So I'm gonna have to put myself on a waiting list and hope for a cancellation. But this this really needs to be addressed because it is very uncomfortable, I have to say. If you see me making some weird head movements today, that will be why. So please don't think that I'm about to uh, something weird is about to happen. It's just because I might be a little locked and jammed and in a little bit of pain and wanting to relieve it. But I will try to um, be as non-distracting as I can with what's going on here. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. Of course, like as I said, there's been a lot of things happening, and one of the things that happened late last week is that the prime minister made a specific amount announcement that had to do with one of his objectives. Like I said, how would I put it? I keep on talking about pieces of a puzzle that all have to fit together, and he's working at a whole bunch of things. And obviously, there's a sequencing for things. So, for example, a good example of that is that $6 billion he announced for the trades. It's something he campaigned on during the election. We didn't hear much about it for the first year about, and then boom, comes out, and that is going to ensure that there is the manpower there for all the construction that is going to happen when we have when the infrastructure projects really start to get going, and you need maximum people working on something at a very specific point for a certain number of years. um, but you're going to have to train these people to have them on board, or else if there's not enough of them in house, well, then we have to find a way to bring them in, and then again you have uh, all the other issues that come with that, like we just learned when we had to bring in a lot of people post COVID because we had a labor shortage, right? You have to make sure that the health services are there, the education services are there, that there is actually lodging for them. But and you're bringing them here maybe to help build houses, so it becomes a very tricky chicken and egg type thing. So there's certain steps that have to happen before, right? You want to make sure that certain things are underway, and that the if you can call it a pipeline of skills and trade workers that we're trying to build, that starts delivering in time as projects are coming online. So that's taking place. So this is another one of these pieces of the puzzle that are very, very important to get in place because a lot of things depend on it. And this is the piece of the puzzle that has to do with our national electrical grid. Now, in terms of stuff like carbon emissions and one of those things, we are very fortunate in Canada that there is a lot of our electricity that is generated through hydro, particularly in Ontario and Quebec and Manitoba, and that helps us a lot along the way to get there. But then you have other situations like in Alberta, where a lot of electricity is produced through burning gas, and they have one of the highest rates of electricity in the country at the moment, which is not necessarily good for business as well, right? If they're talking about the Alberta advantage, the electrical costs of doing business, particularly if you're in something that requires intense electricity, is probably not part of the advantage. Let's just put it that way. So, but our grid is not the most efficient because it is not connected east to west, so that when there are shortages somewhere, so that we can reroute electricity throughout the country. uh, and it is not um, all the smaller grids that we have are not necessarily interconnected and tied together so that, again, in times of need, they can help each other out. So these are things we need to fix. And then when you think, in addition to that, if we are going to become a nation uh, that is going to have a lot of AI centers, and again, if we are a nation that produces electricity more cheaply than many others, then we become an attractive destination for those AI data centers. Now, of course, there's a whole bunch of environmental uh, degradation things that maybe would might want to make us think twice about whether or not this is a route we want to go down, whether this is an attractive option. But regardless, having this extra electricity capacity is still going to help us whether we go AI data center route or not. Because if, for example, we are going to become eventually a bigger center for aluminium when it comes to defense contracts with Europe and other parts of the world, that is a rather energy intensive process. It's one of the reasons why Quebec is one of the best places to do it, just because of the amount of their electricity that comes from hydro. Um, there are going to be these types of adjustments and opportunities that come with it, and we have to be prepared for them, right? If we are going to get involved just in more defense manufacturing overall, there's going to be higher energy demands. If we are going to be doing more mining and extraction, that's one of the reasons those small modular reactors, those nuclear reactors, are becoming more important, because if we can prove they can work in a Darlington setting, and I believe we would be the first nation in the world who would do that, then these are things that might be able to be built as standalone installations in areas, especially more remote areas where we need to do mining, and without having, and that would be, a way to ensure that that process is electrified without having to do additional environmental degradation in order to get some power up there somehow, right? um or less, altering of the landscape, if you would like to put it that way. So a lot of these pieces do need to fit together. It's one of the reasons, again, why we're doing this sort of like the expansion of the Contrecoeur point port right now, because at some point, if we are going to be extracting all these things and shipping them somewhere, we need, bigger port capacity to be able to handle what it is we're going to be exporting, and bigger ports that are able to handle either more traffic or bigger boats, right? So that more can come out. So all these steps, first step, second steps, the sequencing, all that kind of stuff is here. So the electricity part is very, very key to this. A lot of it's a foundation on which a lot of what we want to do in the future actually relies on. So it's very, very important to get this part right. Um, so the prime minister had an announcement with regards to that. I think it was, if I remember correctly, late last week, um, and generally well received. Of course, as with all things, right? Devil is in the details, and of course, it depends. There's a lot of partners and there's a lot of players involved in this, so there's a lot of coordination and things have to happen well. However, it does look like something uh, that has been pretty well thought through here, and seems to have a pretty uh, decent plan. The How would I put it? One of the things that will cause some controversy in this is the role that natural gas is going to play in this process. It is going to have a much bigger role. Uh, well, not I don't know if I can say much bigger role. It's going to have a bigger role than it was planned to have originally, uh, but relative to the role that general electrification will um, have in terms of what's coming from sources like nuclear and hydro and renewables. Um, how would I put it? I guess the best way to say it is that whatever growth there is going to be in gas is not going to be as much as growth in the other areas, and seen more as a stepping stone again to maybe get off um, dirtier forms. So again, still a fossil fuel. So maybe exchanging a fossil fuel for a fossil fuel, but one that might be cleaner on the way to getting to electrification there. For certain instances where that may not be possible. Again, like for example, if I'm thinking of Alberta, I don't know what percentage of the energy generating capacity there um, comes from gas, but it is pretty substantial. If I'm not mistaken, I can try to see if I can look it up here while I'm chatting away. Um, so for them, for example, small modular reactors might be the place that they want to go. Um, and that might not be able to happen as fast, right? So that might that would be that could be a place now, of course, in in Alberta already it is natural gas. So I mean that wouldn't necessarily apply there, but if you had a context where that would apply, that would help. That's where it would help. I could see. So there might be certain industries or certain areas of the country. Maybe I don't know. For example, if diesel is more polluting, maybe a way to replace diesel with I don't know how that's going to work, but in that sense is wherever that could be replaced, it looks like it is going to be playing a bigger role. But according to what I'm seeing here, and I think this comes from the Canada Energy Regulator, approximately 81 to 85% of Alberta's electricity is generated from fossil fuels, primarily by burning natural gas. While the province has significantly phased out coal power, natural gas continues to dominate the grid, with renewable sources like wind, solar, and hydro making up the remaining share. Um, all right. So, looking at the announcement itself, so the basically calling it the National Electricity Strategy, says here that the world is changing rapidly. The United States is upending global trade. Wars are ongoing in Europe and the Middle East. Artificial intelligence is scaling at speed, and climate change is intensifying. In response, Canada's new government is focused on what we can control, building an affordable, competitive, and sustainable Canadian economy. Central to this mission is supplying and controlling our own energy. Electricity is the clear solution to Canada's energy security, affordability, and competitiveness. Canada already has an 80% clean grid and some of the lowest electricity costs in the G7. As our economy and our industries become more energy intensive, electricity demand in Canada is expected to double by 2050. This is an enormous opportunity for Canada to build a sustainable, affordable future. To that end, Canada's new government is launching a new national electricity strategy. This plan will double the capacity of our grid by 2050 and supply clean, reliable, affordable power across the country for decades to come. To develop this strategy, today we are launching consultations with provinces and territories, Indigenous peoples, utilities, and unions. Over the next few months, we will work together to identify the actions needed to double our grid most effectively and affordably. This transformation will not only build a more sustainable Canada, but also a more affordable Canada. Canada's national electricity strategy could deliver up to $15 billion in total energy savings by 2050 and lower total energy costs for 7 in 10 Canadian households. Realizing these savings will require a willingness to use a wide range of energy, including natural gas. That's why we intend to adjust clean electricity regulations to provide the flexibility needed to keep energy costs for all Canadian families reliable and affordable, while reducing emissions and building the clean energy system of the future. I believe in his remarks, Prime Minister said something, if we do this right, we can deliver up to 15 billion, but if we do it wrong, it could end up costing way more. So uh, it's he said he would keep it real. So there it is. This strategy will require major investments to generate more clean energy, connect our fragmented electricity grids, train and retain tens of thousands of skilled Canadian workers, and strengthen Canadian manufacturing so more of the technologies powering our grid are made here at home. The strategy will be guided by 4 pillars. 1, build the infrastructure needed to double Canada's electricity generation. This will require generational investments in generation, transmission, distribution, storage, and grid modernization. These new consultations will explore how to most effectively finance the build out to spread the costs over time to match the benefits, keeping energy affordable and our country competitive. Two, connect Canada's fragmented grids east, west, and north through new and expanded transmission lines. Canada's electricity system is currently fragmented across provincial and territorial grids, costing us billions of dollars in outages, duplicative infrastructure, and wasted power. These consultations will tackle common barriers to interprovincial interties so that we can unite our grids and deliver more reliable, affordable power to all Canadians. Three, train, attract, and retain the talent needed to build the grid of the future. Doubling the grid will require more than 130,000 high skilled workers by 2050. Through these consultations, the federal government will work with industry, labor, and training partners to develop solutions to train, attract, and retain the talent needed to build and maintain the grid of the future. And here, once again, even though clearly not gender specific because the trades are for everybody, but for the demographic of young men that the Liberals seemed to be losing to the Conservatives. Here again is a very tangible program that they know will deliver jobs. And again, as the Prime Minister says, he doesn't want just jobs; he wants careers. These are high-skilled workers, and therefore, right, lots of opportunities here for. Again, a lot of people whose needs and concerns have not been addressed for some time. And, who've been legitimately concerned about the transitions, about to the future. What does that mean for them? Well, here's making it concrete what it can mean, and that there is opportunity, that they will not be left behind, as we move to a greater electrification and less reliance on fossil fuels, at least to power our lives. And four, make more of the technologies and components powering our grid here at home. As we build the clean economy of the future, Canada's new government is ensuring our industries can bridge to seize its opportunities. These consultations will explore how to grow domestic manufacturing capacity so that more of the components powering our grid are made in Canada. As part of our comprehensive focus on affordability, we are also expanding support for energy savings retrofits for up to 1 million households through financing grants and complementary measures. This includes making it easier for Canadians to transition from expensive propane, oil, and electric baseboard heating to more affordable electric heat pumps. So basically, the home retrofit programs and those programs to change, get off heavy oil or whatever other, more heavier emitting fuels that we have to live our daily lives. Those programs are coming back. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in his remarks, the Prime Minister had said something to the fact that there were probably about 7 million households across Canada that are using rather heavier methods, heavier emitting methods to heat. And there it is, right here. 7 million homes are affected by are using other methods. And through this first wave of grants and whatnot, they're hoping to help 1 million different households transition to eventually cheaper and less emitting and probably more reliable sources for whatever they need to power their lives. So those programs are coming back, and that's a very good thing. So along now, so again, right, we have the rebates for the electric vehicles coming in. Now we have the retrofits for the homes. We have programs again to install more heat pumps, that type of stuff. These are things that are very important because there is a significant portion of our GHGs that come just from our buildings and our homes. So let's see here, looking here. What percentage of GHGs in Canada come from buildings? Buildings in Canada account for approximately 13% of the country's total direct greenhouse gas emissions, making it the third highest emitting sector after oil and gas transportation. When talking indirect emissions, such as offsite electricity generation into account, this figure rises to about 18%. Furthermore, when incorporating the embodied carbon from construction and building materials, the sector's total footprint is closer to 28 to 38% of Canada's emissions. So, again, if you can help 1/7 of the houses and buildings in Canada who are using heavier emitting methods in order to, again, uh, fuel their operations, that could mean a really, and those are permanent cuts, right? And it's not just one time; those are permanent cuts. When you replace the gas or the heavy oil furnace with a heat pump, you might have the other thing as a backup, and you might have a little there in case you need it on the odd day. But for the most part, the carbon footprint of your house decreases uh, so quite substantially. Probably, at least in our case, what we did, we had to meet a target of at least 25% with the new insulation and the heat pump, and we had no problem hitting that. Uh, with the insulation alone, we were going to hit heat, and we were going to hit that. So when we did both, we're pretty much, I guess if we had like a way to get a little bit of extra to put some solar in and had a solar water heater of some type, those would be the next two things, and then of course changing our car to electric. Uh, but little little actions, right? If 2 million households, if 1 million households in the space of 2 3 years do that, or in the space of 5 years do that, uh, and you add it on with all the other things, we're talking about uh, real reductions in emissions here, and this is definitely a place where we need to work at it. So it's good to see that these programs are back, and these are programs that are very, very popular as well with people. So the take up, I know that when we were doing it, the programs were oversubscribed, and some people I'm sure had to wait and were denied. It says here, the work of doubling our grid is already underway. Through the Major Projects Office, we are advancing clean electricity generation projects, including hydroelectric projects like the Taltson Hydro Expansion in the Northwest Territories and the Iqaluit, oh boy, let's try this. The Iqaluit Nunik Sotit Hydro Project in Nunavut, nuclear generation projects such as the Darlington New Nuclear in Ontario, clean electricity transmission lines like the North Coast Transmission Line in British Columbia, and major wind developments like the Wind West in Nova Scotia. To build more transmission intertie projects specifically, we will refer the development of a new comprehensive transmission interconnect investment strategy to the Major Projects Office. So here, again, we are talking about a pipeline west for Alberta, and yes, we are talking about that Sunshine project from Enbridge and the Xilisms project, and there's a couple of other LNG projects that we're talking about here. And yes, those are fossil, but there are a lot of other projects that are not, right? So both, when the Prime Minister was saying in both, conventional and renewables, um, he's doing that. The conventional seems to be focused on getting a pipeline to Tidewater West, which directly fits into the strategy of diversifying the markets, sending less to the United States, sending more elsewhere, and getting the full price for what it is that we pull out of the ground, and more LNG as well. Also going west, taking effect of the advantage that we have because the United States, all of their LNG exports are more closer to the east and the south, and there are not any on the Pacific yet. So we have a chance, the more that we build, to get a competitive advantage in being the first to secure the contracts in those markets because we're the first to be able to deliver. So that's why that's a particularly intense strategy, particularly on the non-conventionals. And then, of course, with that whole deal we had with India, what we signed, right, for all that extra uranium mining, involving Cameco, that's for nuclear. And, if we're going to be extracting all that additional uranium for whatever projects are needed there. Well, that's obviously going to help fund the extraction of it for us for our small modular reactors. So, and whatever growth we want to do there. And again, with the small modular reactors, if that works, we have the benefit of then creating the secondary industry of intellectual property related to that, because we would be global pioneers. And then we would have a whole industry on exporting that knowledge and that technology and helping other nations do that as well. And if we do that in such a way that we can actually record some patents, because I haven't said it lately, but it's one of those things that I said often in the beginning, it is not. Uh, it is not just about GDP, right? It's also about IP, right? You want to have the intellectual property. We want to have patents registered here. We want to, when we're taking that money that we're using to fund all those researchers and whatnot, that strategy at that end, it's for them to create that knowledge and to create those products that we develop here, instead of marketing, having all these people go elsewhere to try and find a way to develop those good ideas. We develop more of them here. We keep the intellectual property here, and we develop that expertise, and we get to market that expertise as well, which is going to fuel our growth. And that's one of those reasons, for example, the pathways part in the MOU project is there as well, right? They're going to look at that. So a lot of these things, the Wind West project might be another way that we would be creating more intellectual property that we can generate, that we could export in here. So these strategies do have some levels here. It goes on to say, in parallel, we are making Canada the best place in the world to build and invest in clean energy, from the clean economy investment tax credits and other investment incentives to tightened methane regulations. I keep on forgetting that the methane regulations are part of this whole thing in the MOU, but it is there. And strengthen industrial carbon pricing. We are accelerating approvals for critical mineral development and low carbon housing. Through our climate competitiveness strategy, we are unlocking hundreds of billions in investments across nuclear, hydro, wind, solar, and grid infrastructure, while making electric vehicles more affordable for Canadians. In a more dangerous, volatile world, Canada is choosing to build our new national electricity strategy will deliver clean, affordable, and reliable energy systems built by Canadians for Canadians. So you can see here in this is from the government of Canada, this thing explaining what the project is here that I'm reading to you. You can see at the end that they're really, because they know they're going to get a lot of blowback on the environment side, focusing on all the specific environment things that they are doing in addition, you know, to this. So, yeah, they know that clearly this is indicating that they are aware that this is going to be um, a sensitive element here. Let's see what we have here. According to data that has been accumulated, it seems here that approximately $3 trillion is spent globally every year on electricity grids, efficiency, and electrification, with clean energy deployment accounting for the majority of new additions to electricity generation. By 2030, renewables are set to contribute the highest share of global electricity generation, according to the International Energy Agency. So here we're talking about some strategic investments in the modernization and expansion of Canada's electricity infrastructure. These are things that had been announced before. So there are major clean economy investment tax credits, such as those for clean electricity, clean technology, and carbon capture, utilization, and storage. So we are using our tax credit system to attract more of these for more clean electricity, clean technology, carbon capture, that type of stuff, some more green tech in our electricity generation. And then there's strategic financing through the Canada Infrastructure Bank with a $20 billion on clean energy target. The Canada Growth Fund and the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program, with the envelope doubled from $5 billion to $10 billion on the latter one. And there's programming targeted at priority areas in the electricity sector, including the $4.5 billion Smart Renewables and Electrification Pathways Program. By the way, on that previous thing, the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program is for Indigenous companies to be able to get equity stakes in these projects and to be able to buy them, to help with that. A new productivity super deduction, a set of enhanced tax incentives covering all new capital investments that allows business to write off a larger share of the cost of these investments right away. And the Electric Vehicle Affordability Program, which makes it more affordable for Canadians to buy or lease electric vehicles. If there's anything here specifically in some quotes that are particularly interesting, nope, not really. Okay. So yes, let's see here if there is some analysis. Clean electricity. Go. Bum, 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 bum. There we go. Let's do that. Uh, CBC and the Globe and Mail. See what they've got here today. So this is from May 13th, that's a couple of days ago already. David Thurton, Ashley Burke, Kate McKenna, and Peter Zamunyich of CBC News. They had 4 journalists on it, so obviously there was a lot to look at here. And it says here, where the Prime Minister says, the path to affordability is electrification, the path to competitiveness is electrification, and the path to net zero is electrification. Electrification underpins everything: our emissions, our environment, our economy. It says here, according to a government statement, the plan, which is called Powering Canada Strong, will lower the cost of electricity for 7 in 10 Canadian households by expanding the role that natural gas plays in the energy mix. So here they're focusing specifically on the role that natural gas will play. So the more controversial element of the plan. Powering Canada Strong says natural gas, quote, has one of the lowest emissions intensities in the world, which allows natural gas to play multiple roles, including supporting peak demand, bolstering systems reliability during periods of stress, or low renewable output, and meeting baseload generation needs. Baseload power typically refers to a power plant that provides continuous electricity output and ensures grid stability, while peak power plants respond to fluctuations in grid demand. The government also announced it will review and amend the previous Trudeau government's controversial clean electricity regulations. Quote, the government of Canada intends to adjust the clean electricity regulations to enable the sector to grow more rapidly across all provinces and territories by providing greater flexibility to offset residual emissions elsewhere, the strategy says. The Trudeau government finalized the clean electricity regulations in 2024 with the goal of achieving deep emission reductions in the electricity sector by 2050. Carney said Thursday that his government is launching consultations with the provinces and territories, Indigenous peoples, utilities, and unions across the country. Quote, over the next few months, we will work together to identify the actions needed to double our grid most effectively and affordably, the government said in a statement. Carney said that over the next 4 months, as the new electricity strategy is fine-tuned through consultations, it will be guided by 4 pillars. The first pillar involves building infrastructure to increase the generation, transmission, distribution, and storage of energy across the country. The consultations will try to find efficient ways to finance the building of infrastructure that keeps energy affordable. The second guiding pillar to the new strategy will be the goal of connecting the country's fragmented grids by expanding transmission lines and finding ways to break down barriers between provincial electricity grids. And it says here that, as I mentioned before in the thing, it's costing the country billions of dollars in outages, duplicative infrastructure, and wasted power. The third pillar, of course, was focused on creating the skilled workforce needed to build the grid. And the fourth is to manufacture more of the technology and components required to expand the grid here at home. Carney also says that there is no credible path to net zero without ensuring that energy is affordable for Canadians. Part of that affordability will be achieved, he said, by adjusting the clean electricity regulations and expanding some existing policies. Quote, that's why we will expand support for energy savings retrofits for up to 1 million Canadians households throughout finance. Sorry, let's try that again. That's why we will expand support for energy saving retrofits for up to 1 million Canadian households through financing grants and other complementary measures. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, of course, dismissed Carney's announcements on Thursday as old news. Quote, he re-announced the same electricity plan that the Liberals have used over the last decade to jack up the cost of our bills by 35%, blah, 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 blah. And none of that is true, of course. The federal government does not control electricity prices. Again, that is provincial. So we will just disregard anything else he has to say there. He started with a lie, and he is politically irrelevant. If he had something useful to contribute, we would have continued reading it, but he started off with a lie, so we know that the rest is going to be a lie as well. More than 80% of Canada's power grid is non-emitting thanks to hydroelectricity generation, nuclear, and renewables like wind and solar, but the previous Trudeau government feared that percentage could narrow as electricity demand grows and provinces turn to natural gas power generation to fill the gap. That's why the federal electricity regulations were so controversial in Alberta, because that's where they were going to have the biggest impact, given how much of their electricity is generated through natural gas. Ever since Ottawa signed an emergency deal with the province in November, those regulations have been in jeopardy. The agreement committed to immediately suspend the clean energy regulation in Alberta pending a new carbon pricing agreement. CBC News has reported that both the federal government and Alberta have recently reached a deal on pricing carbon emissions. And that's hopefully we'll have a chance to get to that a little later on the show today. Multiple sources said Ottawa will recognize that it has a greater role to play in building transmission infrastructure that connects provincial and territorial grids to one another through what the industry calls massive transmission intertie. Sources said the government is looking at if the Major Projects Office could get involved in this massive transmission infrastructure expansion. The government is also considering referring several grid interconnection projects to the Major Projects Office for analysis to see if they could be designated under the Build Canada Act as projects in the national interest so that they could be fast-tracked, a source with knowledge said. Those projects that could be referred include interties between BC and Yukon, interties between the Atlantic provinces, as well as interties between Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador. And on that front, it seems that I believe the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador recently announced something that they had achieved a stage on that deal with Hydro-Quebec that would have had ensured the lower cost electricity supply for the province of Quebec into the future with what's the word I'm looking for? With a greater share of it going to Newfoundland and Labrador because it's been widely recognized. Even the former Premier of Quebec, François Legault, did finally realize and recognize that Newfoundland and Labrador really got screwed on the original deal. And it seems here that according to the Canadian press, the announcement that came was that the report on the Churchill Falls MOU coming, the one that the Premier wanted and ran on, and he won the election on. It is now ready. It says that it will be released. It was released today at 12:30 Newfoundland time, and the report's major conclusion, of course, says that the deal is not in Newfoundland and Labrador's best interest. So it looks like we will have some more wrangling between Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec as to what the deal is going to be. It's going to be a little interesting for Newfoundland and Labrador at the moment because right now the Premier is interim and the election is scheduled till October, which means that there's not going to be any significant work of any consequence done on this until probably the new year, which delays things at a time where delays are not good. So I'm not sure. I mean, I understand wanting to get the best deal for your province, but I mean, there's a time there's a time thing here. Is the deal that bad, or is it just bad because it was negotiated with a liberal? So I never understood what the underlying need or suspicion was from the Progressive Conservative Party in Newfoundland Labrador with regard to the deal or the MOU in the first place. But it says here that in the report, a 3-person panel outlined several concerns with the non-binding framework agreement to share power from Labrador, which was signed by the province's hydroelectric utilities. In particular, the panel concludes the agreement does not provide Newfoundland and Labrador with enough power, which could limit energy-hungry sectors such as mining and hamper long-term economic growth. Quote, however, the government of Newfoundland and Labrador can make significant decisions that may ultimately allow Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro to work towards a revised agreement with Hydro-Quebec to serve the public interest, says the report's executive summary, which was shared by a source with the Canadian press. The Canadian press agreed not to name the source, who was not authorized to speak publicly. On Tuesday morning, Quebec Premier Christine Fréchette said she spoke with Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Tony Wakeham the day before and will meet with him soon. In a post on X, Fréchette said they will take the time to analyze the report. She and Wakeham both agree on the importance of reaching a win-win agreement in the near future. Fréchette has more of an economic background, so if there was something that would be able to be done in the next couple of months, especially since Fréchette could have something that she could tout as a win in her bid to try to gain more favor for the CAQ so that it does not get wiped out in the next provincial election, this could be an avenue. This could be a way that something concrete on this gets started before next year. If they can come to an agreement before October, there is time. and she can run on it, um, there might be something there. That just dawned on me as I'm reading this. The long awaited report can bring answers to a weary Newfoundland and Labrador public that has long felt cheated by Quebec, and it could reignite negotiations between the province's power utilities if Quebec is willing. The panel was tasked in December to determine whether the draft deal is in, quote, the best long term interest of the people of the province, according to its terms of reference. The deal was unveiled in late 2024 in St. John's by Newfoundland and Labrador's previously Liberal government. If finalized, it would expire in 2075. Wakeham has demanded a review of the proposal since the day it was announced. He assembled the panel just weeks after his party formed government last fall, halting all negotiations of final agreements to wait for the committee's report. The draft deal they scrutinize proposes new rates and allocations for power from the 5,428 megawatt Churchill Falls generating station in Labrador. Currently, Hydro-Québec gets the majority of the electricity at basement floor prices under a contract signed in 1969 that has long been a source of bitterness in Newfoundland and Labrador. The deal would also allow Hydro-Québec to lead new developments on the Churchill River alongside Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. If they proceed, the utilities would ultimately share more than 9,000 megawatts of power from the river, of which Hydro-Québec would be entitled to roughly 80%. Newfoundland and Labrador would get more money from Hydro-Québec for electricity from Churchill Falls, but at the expense of economic growth that would come with more power, the panel's report said. The committee said it was concerned that Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro would have no transmission ability to sell Churchill Falls power to export markets. The report also mentioned the challenge of sustaining joint ventures between partners with divergent interests. The Independent Review Committee concludes that despite the benefits, the Memorandum of Understanding in its current form is not in the public interest, the report said. Chris Huskell. So basically, it's good, but it could probably be better because if we as a province have more ambition to either manufacture or have more develop electricity intensive industries in Newfoundland and Labrador, we might not have enough power to do that based on this deal. Seems to be the conclusion that I'm based on what I'm understanding here. And therefore, we can't abide by these terms because we have to, if we're doing this, we always have to make sure that we have enough power for ourselves and our future aspirations. And this, basically, they're saying this is not it. Chris Huskelson, a former chief executive of Nova Scotia-based power company Emera Incorporated, led the group. His team included former EY executive Michael Wilson, who previously criticized the draft deal and said Newfoundland and Labrador could get better terms. Wakeham previously promised the panel members would present the report in person on Tuesday. However, his office said Friday that would no longer happen. Oh. The members decided the report speaks for itself, a spokesperson said. Oh. That's not a good sign. At all. Former Quebec Premier François Legault helped shepherd the proposed arrangement between Hydro-Québec and Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. His party, the Coalition Avenir Québec, is not expected to do well in the province's upcoming election, which must be held by early October. The Parti Québécois, which is ahead in the polls, has spoken out against the proposal, saying it gives far too much to Newfoundland and Labrador. So, again, an election issue in the upcoming Quebec election, this could probably be it. And, Parti Québécois going, a little more nationalistic. We can get more. We're giving too much to Newfoundland and Labrador. And you might have the Liberals. Listen, we've been bickering about this thing since 1969. Would you like to, just close this chapter now? Let's just get to a damn deal. And buy ourselves some peace of mind. Can we do that? So there, you might have a contrasting issue in the election on that. But still interesting what's going on there. Back to the original story here. We were talking about the electricity expansion, grid expansion, and just taking a look, see what the Globe and Mail has on that to see if there's anything additional angles or points of view that we have not seen so far. The article will have been written by Matthew McLaren, and let's just going to scan it very quickly here. Here's one of the things that I had noted specifically. Speaking in Ottawa, Prime Minister Mark Carney said Canada would achieve the proposed doubling of power generation by 2050 through massive investment and borrowing using our AAA balance sheet. Quote, get it wrong and Canadians will pay higher utility bills, Mr. Carney said. Be too timid and Canadians will end up short of power, losing good jobs and growing reliant on foreign suppliers. So the Prime Minister has been presenting this as, it's something that we need to do, but there is a sweet spot, right? We have to be bold enough because if we're too timid, we are going to end up short of power, and we have to make sure that we're doing the right things in the right way, in the right order, because if we get it wrong, those $15 billion of savings, they're not going to happen. In fact, it will end up costing us more. Um, and that's basically all the Globe and Mail had. It was strictly something on that the consultations will begin. Might have been something more in depth somewhere else, but on this particular article, that's all there was. So since that happened very quickly, um, there we. Nope, that's not it. Is it? Take a look at this, but I will take a look at. Let's see, maybe APTN News. If it's not Canadian Press again, it is Canadian Press in APTN News. So that is not any additional help here. Let's see if this other one from the Globe and Mail has some additional perspective. No, it's still the beginning consultation. So yeah, that's about it then. I think we've gone around this subject. Not sure. It's still that's weird that the team in Newfoundland and Labrador that developed this report, saying that they would be available, would present their report in person, and then say, no, the report speaks for itself. You don't need to hear from us. You would think that. See, the thing with the report speaks for itself. If it really did speak for itself, that would mean that the people who wrote it are so confident that their conclusions are extremely well founded and so obvious, and the implication should be that we don't, there's nothing more that we could add by being there. But wouldn't that be, it's like, if that is the case, wouldn't you want to be at the table and, not saying necessarily crowing about your work, but being rather proud of the work that you've done and more than happy to answer questions? It's just, I don't know. It always seems to me that when people say that, well, the report speaks for itself and there's nothing else we can add, it's either because it's a very controversial subject, or what's in the report um, is expected to be considered somewhat provocative. Um, the reaction of the interim premier of Quebec at the moment seems to be, if the intent was to provoke, to act as if she is not provoked, which is good. You want to keep a calm head in this situation. You want to save your raising of the voice for uh, times, critical moments in the negotiation process where they can be most effective. You don't want to start out there. So she might be doing a little bit of that here, but I am, like I said, that part sticks in my craw a little bit, I have to say, and it makes me go, huh? It makes me, it it causes more questions for me than it reassures that this was work that was well done. Let's put it that way, or at least work that they can stand behind if they were pushed a little bit, or pressed, I should say, more than pushed, to defend what it is that they've put out there. Um, let's see here. The Prime Minister had a press event on this. Um, and I believe there was one thing in particular that I wanted to highlight on it. Let's see here. I thought I had a little asterisk against something that was okay. No, that is not the case. So yeah, um, let's do this here. One of the things about the press conference that I liked was closer to the end of it, and I have no idea what happened here. There's definitely something wrong with my. Hold on, Let's try this. Will work. There we go. For some reason, there was some edits that had not saved, but I knew I had done them, and I just clicked on a little something to refresh, and there they were. So, okay, which means in that case, if I can do that, let me alter my approach for a bit because I was just going to bring one thing up, and this allows me to do something else now that all the numbers, the timestamps are correct here. Here in this response, the Prime Minister is answering a little bit why it is that this is why it is that this is important at this time. I believe so. Here, why are we changing electricity regulations and talking about the 4-month consultation period here? So let me just line this up for you. Believe it's at around 30 minutes. I keep on bringing myself up. There we go. So I don't need to bring myself up. I'm already here. All right. There we have it. And let's set this up. Prime Minister Carney announces, share, and that should bring it up there. There we go. Hey, look at me. I'm cruising. All right.
Because I know the colleagues have questions. Why are we amending the clean electricity regulations? And is this because of the MOU?
Well, first off, we're what we signal in, and to be clear, we're putting out, it's a fairly detailed, as I hope you had a chance to see, electricity strategy with a number of initiatives. We're putting it out as a consultation for the next 4 months. So we're going to be sitting down, obviously, with provinces. We have the primary jurisdictions, Indigenous peoples, unions, utilities, other stakeholders, getting feedback, and then we'll look to finalize the initiatives. So with respect to the clean electricity regs, it goes back to, if I may, the first question from your colleagues at Radio Can, or an element of the first question, which is that a role for natural gas, is there a role for natural gas in the transition in some provinces? That was part of my answer, remembering that different provinces, different electricity markets start from different positions. So we're taking a very practical approach here, recognizing that under some interpretations of the current electricity regulations, it'd be difficult to build some additional natural gas that would complement much bigger builds. And to be clear, the orders of magnitude, the clean electricity build from hydro through to renewables is going to be much bigger than what we're talking about specifically. But to have those complements in some markets, particularly as it takes some time to bring those markets together, that helps deliver affordability. We have some of the cheapest gas in the world in Canada. It can be efficient, delivers affordability, but the electricity regs need to be consistent with that. Can't have them set up necessarily that's going to strand a series of assets, but then how do you offset those assets down the road with carbon credits? And we've laid out the broad strokes of that, and that's what we'll have more detailed discussions on.
Next question.
All right. So that is one of the things that the Prime Minister had mentioned there, why it is necessary to adjust the clean electricity regulations specifically. One of these things also to remember in all of this, that might something that might be helping the Prime Minister in here is that a gentleman who goes by the name of Michael Sabia is in the inner circle of the Prime Ministers. He's actually the clerk of the Privy Council and the secretary to the Cabinet of Canada. Well, this man just so happens was the former CEO of Hydro-Québec from 2023 to 2025. So again, and has a career in the public service, having served as a deputy secretary to cabinet and all those types of things. Also was a director of the Monk School of Global Affairs. So someone that comes extremely qualified and brings a certain amount of personal experience in this particular field directly to the PMO. So that's another element that we have in the pocket, in the back pocket, to uh, give us uh, more reason to expect that we are going to make this change, and we can make this change relatively well. Um, with regard to meeting targets, um, the Prime Minister is asked about this, uh, and let's see where he takes this one, if we are still committed to our targets.
Les critiques et les actions des États-Unis en ce qui concerne le Canada.
That is not the correct timestamp. And the reason why is because I misread 3541 for 3514. So let me just move that up a little bit there. There we go.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning.
Jude Amlis, Bloomberg News. Does your government still plan to meet its 2030 emissions reduction target?
We are putting in place a series of initiatives that will make material emission reductions. We'll update our climate plans and our emission reduction targets in due course. But let's be clear about what we're talking about here. Is we're looking at an ability to remove about 250 to 300 megatons of emissions through electrification with clean electricity in a very practical way, in a way that will help unleash the $1 trillion or so over the next 25 years of investment that's needed, in partnership with provinces, in partnerships with the private sector, and with a credible plan that's focused on investment and action. And it's that investment that's going to reduce the emissions.
On today's announcement, the strategy says the government plans to allow greater use of offsets to give the sector more flexibility. I'm wondering if you could elaborate on how this will work, and does this is the ultimate aim here to just allow for more gas power plants?
The ultimate aim here is to make no. The ultimate aim is to affordably transition to a low emission, ultimately net zero economy that's more competitive, more independent, more reliable power system. That's the goal, to do so in an independent way. I refer to my earlier comments about the complementary role of gas in the short term, a role that is dwarfed in scale in terms of the clean electricity investments that the country will be making across hydro, nuclear, renewables. So the use of offsets, there's two things I would say. One is ultimately, as I'm sure you know, in net zero is called net zero for a reason. There is a net in net zero. The net is the use of offsets, and so clarification about the role of those offsets, the types of those offsets, when they can be used, is part of any comprehensive electricity strategy. And that brings me to one more point, which is, question comes from Bloomberg and markets, and just reinforcing the need to have a true market, a true carbon credit market in this case, not an offset market, but a credit market in Alberta. And over time, we would like to see that developed, and other provinces have the option of joining if they so wish.
All right. So in this answer here, talking about some elements here that are very, very important here, in that, first of all, the first question, brilliantly asked, very simple. Do you still plan to meet the targets? Boom. No flowers, no big language, no editorial comment, no wrap it up there. Just boom, put the question to them. You have it. The answer, claiming that still yes. And then, and I forgot exactly how he said he was going to do it, so I'm sorry, I can't elaborate more. It just popped right out of my head. And then, of course, talking about the offsets, explaining the concept here, like when we're talking about net zero, because it is impossible to actually operate without creating any carbon. We are going to do so. We have ways to offset the carbon that we do create. So it's basically reducing the carbon that we do use or that we create to as little as possible, knowing that we can't get it down to zero. And for what we can't do to get down to zero, there's a way to offset it. We try to do other things that help improve the situation to compensate for what it is that we are putting out there, so that when you do all the math and put it all together, it was like we net out at a zero here. Um, and let's see here. Where's the other thing? The last one we had. Um, this here, I like the answer because this is the one of the criticisms that I have is that the prime minister still hasn't come out and given a comprehensive speech on where it is he stands on the environment and what his environmental approach is and how it is. Like, 'cause again, we have to keep on piecing it together by watching all the moves that he's making and how they integrate in the plan. And I'm guessing, like I said, uh, I know that one of the things that I recommended, for example, when I was talking for the new government, when talking about environment stuff, is to, just embed it and quietly do it and not promote it too much and not make a big deal out of it. So, so that you're not creating something for the conservatives to take a swipe at. Just quietly do it, and 2, 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, you're looking at this, oh my God, like, look at what we've done. So, yeah, that was the plan the whole time, right? And let people be surprised, but without tooting the horn so much because it just draws all this negative attention. He might be doing it too much. So that's when I saw that um, that publication from the federal government uh, on the electrification thing, when they were stating all the additional measures that they are using to make sure that there's a whole green portfolio and that things are working together. Like, just because we're not talking about it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Look, like, these things are there. Um, that one speech where he stands in front of the mic and says, "Listen, a lot of people are saying that I've like betrayed my values. I've done this. Like, this is my vision of how we generate this economic growth and we diversify ourselves and become an energy superpower, and this while respecting our carbon and our environmental commitments." This is what it looks like to me. Yes. And we hear it like from the prime minister, right? He doesn't want to work with regulations and prescriptive type things to a certain extent. But what he wants to see is like, show me a project that is, um, you know, a world leader in the top 10% or top 25% of projects in the world in terms of doing this in a manner that reduces our emissions. And if you can show me that, that's in a world leader, again, top 10%, top 25%, or even the best, we're the first to do it, because you have my attention. If that's a filter that is going in, right, down the road, is those we call it become realized reductions. And that's what he really seems to be going for. Not just putting out a regulation, say we will reduce this by 40% by 2030, and now you guys need to figure out it. And then you have the bickering, and people take each other to court. People decide not to comply, they rebel, and effectively you have a carbon price on paper, or you have a target on paper, but nobody is actually working towards it. Here, it's like if you're actually embedding it in the project and then build the project with those specifications, you have realized those reductions. So it seems to me that that's the way that he is proceeding. But again, you need to tell people what you're doing, particularly on this front, especially as people are starting to get more and more antsy. This answer here has more of that. It's out of all the questions that he's ever been asked on this type of stuff, this one has the best sort of overall presentation of what it is that he's going for. But it's still not enough. It's still not this. He needs an answer on this. He really does. And I don't know why nobody's pointing it out to him yet, because it is a wide open flank. Now, again, public opinion polling is showing that Canadians are not as seized with that issue at the moment. But that's not the point. The point is that, you know, among the people who support him and supported him, and especially those who lent him lent them their vote this time around, who would vote for either NDP or Green normally, right? He can't take that demographic for granted. He has to make it clear, right? Because this is the first group that's going to turn around and say, just scream betrayal. Like all these things that Trudeau put in place, you've cut them down, you cut them down, you cut them down. And here's the thing, right? So I was noticing this comment. Stephen Guilbeault stepped away from cabinet, but he hasn't left the party. He hasn't said he's leaving the party. And when these changes come around, he's not saying, everything's lost and we're going to hell in a handbasket. He's expressing some doubts. He's expressing some concern. He's pointing out where there could be some pitfalls if things are not done right. But he's also not saying it's a disaster. He's seeing, okay, yes, if all these things seem to work, I see where you're going here, Prime Minister. I'm just not convinced that it is better than what we were doing the Justin Trudeau way. But it seems that he's willing to be open to be convinced because he's not going after his party, but he is definitely clear on what are his reservations, right? So it's almost like a convince me. I'm not buying in, but I see theoretically how it could work. Convince me that this is a path that can be more effective, right? So I believe that if that's the case for him, that might be the case. It might be the case that for a lot of people who are not seeing the inner workings of government, who are not close to the table, like Stephen Guilbeault is and sees everything and gets the long explanation and whatnot, that this type of address or this type of package where the Prime Minister would address it directly head on and explain where he is going with this would be very useful. So, like I said, this is the closest I've seen to anything like this that I've been looking for from him. So here it is.
That concludes today's press
I'll
conference.
take one last. Sorry.
Thanks very much. Alex Ballingo of the Toronto Star.
Yeah.
Just going back to Najud's question, I think you said update to the targets in due course. Can you just expand on that? Are we going
Due course is due course, Alex.
But we're changing our climate.
Oh, no. That's not what I said. What we are doing, and let's be clear, and this is the approach of this government, is we are focused on investing to get results. We're focused on practical steps that are going to get results. It doesn't do us good to be sitting in court all the time with provinces. It doesn't do us good to be talking past each other. What it does do us good is to come together, specific projects. In the end, these aren't words on a page. This is Russ, this is Sean, this is Frank and Francis and their colleagues going out and building things, connecting things, making progress. That's what we're focused on. That's what's going to deliver the results. What you're seeing today is the next iteration of a strategy that's all connected. It's connected. With the workers to make it work. We know we need more workers, so we got a strategy to do that, which we developed with the unions, we developed with the provinces, we're putting into place. It means working with the provinces. This strategy is informed not just by the personnel that we have in, although it sure does help to have the former CEO of Hydro-Quebec, part of developing that strategy. So not just the personnel that we have in government, but the fact that we've been working with provinces and utilities and the private sector on some of these big projects. Think about the Northwest Conservation Corridor in BC. That's a huge opportunity to make the system more efficient. Indigenous ownership, conservation area the size of Greece at the same time, as all part of that strategy while we're making it. So, Alex, it's the emission reductions are the product of the actions, and the government is putting more focus on the actions, really rolling up the sleeves and making sure these are moving forward. And by doing so, it concentrates the mind on several things. One, what's holding up projects moving forward. I gave you the example of Contrecoeur, bouncing around for 40 years. Now it's moving forward. Mackenzie Valley, bouncing around for 60 years. 61 years. I'm 60. Well, I guess maybe I became sentient or whatever at 3 or 4, but I literally been talking about it since then. That's pretty bad when your earliest childhood memory is the Mackenzie Valley Highway, but there you go. So really moving forward, and also the fact that we're focused on the here and now means that we think about affordability all the time. So how do we do this in a way that's going to be affordable for Canadians? Because that's what they deserve, and we think we have a variety of things. I'm going to end on this just to reinforce. I say it's all connected, but how do we make it affordable? We make it affordable by linking together as many of the grids as possible, east, west, north. Huge efficiencies that come from that. We make it affordable through a series of financing mechanisms that the federal government can provide and complement to the provinces and others. In effect, what those do is spread costs over a long period of time, so it's not all borne by ratepayers today. We make it affordable by using a wide range of energy sources from different parts. We've talked a bit about gas today, more than it merits in terms of the overall contribution, but it is part of the way that we unlock affordably these bigger clean energy. And we make it affordable by making it affordable and possible for Canadians to save energy. I mean, we have 7 million Canadians, right, who households who have some form of in the extreme energy poverty or energy pressure. And they're using home heating oil, they're using propane, they're using baseboard heating, they don't have access. We're working for 1 million of those homes through a new retrofit program, and we're working to build out these grids in a clean way that's going to get affordability down in that $15 billion of savings.
On the industrial carbon price.
Did you catch that? That's my last comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That concludes today's press conference. Merci tout le monde.
So there you go, kids and cubs. A little bit of humor there as well from the Prime Minister, but also, being firm at the end. It's like, no. I said one more. And he took one more on top of that that he hadn't planned to take. So it's like, don't push it. I like that. I like these human moments in the press conferences there, where he turns around and says, "Oh no, that person's being ignored. Let's take another one." And they try a little hard. No. Oh my God. My word. So yeah. To me, that was sort of the best sort of explanation so far. But as you can still see how it's not completely satisfying yet, right? But yes, definitely, actionable things that are embedded into projects, the actual results of what it is that we're trying to achieve. If we're trying to achieve reductions, then let's actually get reductions. Let's build things in such a way that the reductions are happening rather than just set targets. And I guess over time, if everything you do is in the top 10%, top 25%, or a leading project in the world, the numbers follow, right? Eventually. So that seems to be the strategy, Dan. I have a gas plant for Ducky. Fart. I love a good fart joke. And then look at Linda bringing us some news here. The government is going to hold fireside chats starting on June 23rd. Hopefully that will help give the public more complete explanations of how the complicated stuff works together. Good. Very much looking forward to those. As you know, this is something that we had recommended very early on during the campaign here. Because this is a big project and you want to bring people along and keep them up to date, and plus you want to do it in such a way that doesn't make it such that Pierre Poilievre is occupying the entire YouTube space on this. So we have that, And then, of course, we had the other day the Prime Minister and Danielle Smith get together to announce um, how things had progressed with their MOU here. And says here from the Government of Canada side, the world is changing rapidly. In response, Canada's new government is focused on what we can control, building an affordable, competitive, and sustainable Canadian economy. To that end, we must build our strength at home and diversify our export markets abroad. To advance these shared missions in November, Canada and Alberta signed a memorandum of understanding that unlocks the full potential of Alberta's energy resources, drives massive new investments in renewable energy, and effectively reduces emissions. The MOU shifts energy and climate policy from rigid regulations to pragmatic, responsible, and cooperative approach. The MOU is built on practical solutions, stronger, more effective industrial carbon pricing, major private sector investments in clean technologies, and expanded responsible energy development for the workers and communities who rely on it. It will provide certainty to investors, advance meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and maintain a path to net zero by 2050. Delivering on these shared commitments, the Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, announced that Canada and Alberta have reached a landmark implementation agreement to diversify our exports, lower emissions, and build a stronger, more sustainable economy for all. Working together, Canada and Alberta will build carbon markets that work, affordable, reliable, clean electricity, and diversifying access to global markets. Under each one of those headers here, it says that Canada's carbon credit markets are not working. He referenced this in one of the answers that I showed you here earlier. An oversupply of low-priced credits has weakened incentives and failed to substantially drive down emissions. Establishing a stronger carbon pricing system in high-emitting economies like Alberta also lays the foundation for a credible, scalable national carbon credit market. The Prime Minister here is being extremely diplomatic because when he says an oversupply of low priced credits has weakened incentives and failed to substantially drive down emissions, that is a direct criticism of Danielle Smith, who literally moments in political time after announcing that MOU was signed in November, changed rules in Alberta such that the credit system that they had there would be rendered much more ineffective in preparation for these new rules. So you have to understand here one of the things that a lot of people have a problem with this deal is that ever since the moment that Danielle Smith put her signature on that MOU in November, the first thing that she started to do and has been doing ever since is to try to undermine all the terms of that MOU. All right. So here, the Prime Minister saying, "Going, I see what you did, and we're going to fix that now." Right. So it says here, establishing a stronger carbon pricing system in high-emitting economies like Alberta also lays the foundation for a credible, scalable national carbon credit market. Now, when we're talking about carbon credit market as well, we have the one that Quebec was participating in with California, that Ontario was participating in as well before Doug Ford pulled us out of it. It would appear that Quebec has also along the way made some changes that they're maybe not doing the equivalent of what the carbon price was supposed to do. I'm not all that familiar in there, but I've heard a couple of things from people I respect, and I don't understand the ins and outs. But it seems that they had made some changes so that their program was slightly less effective too. So I'm not sure if this national carbon credit market is the same one where there's an exchange, but if you can have a national carbon, like if you can get Alberta's buy-in, and Quebec has already bought in to the idea of carbon credits, right? If you can get two of the biggest provinces in, that might be something that other provinces might subscribe to. The Justin Trudeau one was instead of going to the carbon market was carbon pricing with a backstop, allowing provinces and territories to develop their own system if they did not want to participate in a carbon price through a carbon tax for all intents and purposes, or carbon levy, or a carbon regulatory fee, which was what it actually was, according to the Supreme Court. Then you could do something as well, so long as it was achieving equivalent impact. which of course was setting the stage for us to have a patchwork system across. It is much more efficient for businesses to invest in Canada if it is one system, actual national system. So if carbon pricing, direct consumer carbon pricing, has been rendered politically toxic to the Conservatives, going the carbon market route might be the best one here. For industries, and might be the one that we end up agreeing upon. And if it could be done very well, that Alberta starts, and if it can be linked somehow with what California and Quebec are doing, and bringing Quebec back on track on it, we might be able to start having something here, and might be something that other provinces subscribe to, rather than going through the extra administrative costs of trying to create something different. Says this will be Canada and Alberta will have agreed to have an effective carbon price of $130 per ton by 240 by 2040. And we often talk about an effective carbon price and a headline carbon price. And says here the headline carbon price will increase to $140 per ton by 2040. Basically, the effective headline carbon price is the carbon price, and the effective carbon price is the one that is if people are using offsets and other stuff like that. 130 is probably the lowest that they can pay. This will be achieved by agreed upon annual benchmarks for the headline carbon price, including $115 by 2030, $130 by 2035. Now, the difference between this is that originally the deal that the objectives that Justin Trudeau was trying to realize was $170 headline price by 2030. So this is $30 per ton less and an extra 10 years to get there. However, we are getting to 115 by 2030. So the bulk of it is still going to, and this is a very underreported thing in this, everybody's talking about, oh, they got 10 more years and it's $30 less. But to get from, I think Alberta has a price of about $20 right now, from that to 100, and they've been canceling scheduled increases to it as well in protest, right? So moving from 20 to 115 between, May 2026 and sometime at the end of 2030 is the bulk of the work here. But then it will keep going. And, who knows, along the way, 2040, 140 per ton by 2040 is not written in stone. Let's say we get to 115 by 2030, and all of a sudden there is a government in Alberta at the time that realizes that, oh my God, having done this is actually giving us a huge economic advantage. Maybe we want to speed that up a little bit. Maybe if they have a little bit of time to try it, they might end up discovering that they like it. Canada and Alberta have also agreed to an annual tightening of stringency rates under the Technology Innovation and Emission Reduction System. If you hear something called the Tier Reduction System, that's a specific Alberta thing. That's what they're talking about here. These tightening rates will gradually strengthen emissions benchmarks over time. Alberta has committed to enforcing a minimum floor price for tier credits beginning in 2030. This is critical insurance policy that will prevent carbon markets from collapsing and will provide a binding price for investment certainty. So the Prime Minister is saying here, we want to build an effective carbon market. To do that, you need to be in, and you need to be in for the long haul, and you need to be in for uncertainty. The Prime Minister keeps on saying no pathways, no pipeline. But in the terms of this, right, work on the pipeline might start by sometime in 2027, and pathways may not be completed by 2035. So a lot of people turn around and says, well, then what stops them from saying, yeah, we'll do pathways. And once they get their pipeline, they say, well, you know what, maybe not so much on the pathways. This kind of a floor here that is being created, that will be established and set in stone for a couple of years and be operating before, might be the type of thing that allows it to happen, because while construction could start in 2027, it definitely will not be operational in 2030 yet. It would appear here. It says here as well, Canada and Alberta will jointly issue 75 million tons of carbon contracts for difference or CFDs to support emissions reduction projects with costs shared equally between Canada and Alberta. This is a landmark agreement that provides long-term certainty rooted in consistent effective increases to the price of carbon emissions in Alberta. With reinforcing carbon market measures such as CFDs, carbon prices will be predictable over time and catalyze investment. Together, these measures will help create the long-term certainty needed to advance major projects, grow Canada's energy sector, and reach net zero emissions by 2050. This agreement creates the potential to expand credible, effective carbon markets across Canada in close collaboration with provinces and territories. Further to Canada's proposed, so that's the first part. On the second part, the affordable, reliable, and clean electricity. Further to Canada's proposed national electricity strategy, the federal government will support upgrades to electricity systems across Canada and increase generation, including adding major high voltage interprovincial transmission to the Clean Electricity Investment Tax Credit. In addition, Canada and Alberta agreed to work towards doubling the grid by 2050 by including by expanding nuclear, wind, solar, geothermal, and lower carbon forms of generation while maintaining the overall stability of Alberta's grid. I don't know if that means that Danielle Smith has has committed to Mark Carney to end her war that she's been waging on renewables. And it does look that she is somewhat interested in the nuclear option. In terms of actual electricity and not in any other way in this particular context. Uh, Interested in the nuclear option, particularly if there are going to be some interties. Because she's been very concerned about baseload power. And the more of the baseload power that she could secure via nuclear, especially small modular reactors, rather than natural gas, the better it will be for everyone. And the better it will be for Albertans because hopefully we'll start lowering their energy costs eventually. In addition, Canada and Alberta will agree to launch a joint electricity working group to identify the projects, technologies, and investments needed to achieve net zero emissions in Alberta by 2050. This includes measures to support grid stability, modernization, and services for baseload and intermittent power sources, including renewables, storage, interties, interprovincial transmission, nuclear, and geothermal. And they will better enable investment. They will better enable investment for renewables and expand supply of electricity for AI data centers and projects. For AI and data center projects. Electricity is central to Canada's future and our sustainability. It powers everything we do. By doubling our grid and increasing electrification, Canada's electricity strategy will help ensure Canadians have access to affordable, reliable, and clean electricity as demand continues to grow across the economy. And then when it comes to diversifying access to global markets, to transport at least 1 million barrels of low-emission Alberta bitumen a day, increase access to Asian markets, and bolster Canada's independence and prosperity, the leaders agreed that Alberta will submit a comprehensive proposal for a bitumen pipeline to Asian markets to the Major Projects Office by July 1, 2026. Canada will pursue its designation as a project of national interest for approval under the Building Canada Act by October 1st, 2026, while ensuring that all steps and decisions are fully consistent with its duty to consult Indigenous peoples and informed by the outcomes of that consultation. This is probably going to be a problem now after that court decision, because if the provincial government in Alberta decides to appeal this, and as we heard in this morning in the interview with Athabasca Chipewyan First Nation Chief Adam, I believe, is it Alan Adam or Adam Allen? I keep mixing. I should know that. I keep mixing up his name. Let me get that right. Make sure I have that right. Yes, Alan Adam. There we go. In that interview, there's seemed to be, the hint that a tactic that could be considered is, if you're not no MOU for you, no pipeline for you, if you can't respect your duty to consult on something as existential as violating treaty or seeking to violate treaty, right? If you're not going to do it on something that basic, we can't trust you with that on the oil, which is again one of the many ways that Danielle Smith appears to have painted herself into a corner and put herself in a situation where she can't have a bitumen pipeline and keep the separatists in her party on side. Danielle Smith might very well just be in a position where she has to decide what she wants more, a pipeline or her job. The cost of having the pipeline might be her not having the job because the separatists don't want the pipeline. They consider the signing of the MOU to be a betrayal to them because she's trying to show that Canada works. And, well, they have no interest in showing that Canada works. And number two, like I mentioned today, if they want to become a colony of the United States so badly that they are willing to essentially betray their own country, then certainly, and they think that they can take everything, the land and everything under it with them, then why would they want what's under the land to be going west so that Canada can make the profit out of it? They're not particularly helpful or patriotic, right? They would like to keep that under the ground and probably use that in leverage when they are the 52nd or 53rd state after what they do to Venezuela or Cuba and wherever else they're going to go. So Danielle Smith might be in a position here where if you want the pipeline, then the price of that is going to be your job. And if you want your job, then the price of that is going to be that pipeline because the separatists don't want you to have it. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Yeah, I would not want to be her right now. She was elated and jubilant nearly during the press conference announcing this. But yeah, she's in for some trouble here. Let's see where we are here. On diversifying access to global markets, so to transport those barrels, Alberta will submit a comprehensive proposal for bitumen pipeline to Asian markets to the Major Projects Office by July 1st. Canada will pursue its designation as a project of national interest for approval under the Building Canada Act by October 1st. While ensuring that all steps and decisions are fully consistent with its duty to consult Indigenous peoples and informed by the outcomes of that consultation. And the third one, Canada and Alberta agreed to continue engaging with British Columbia on the application and any future development and construction on interties with Alberta and on other projects of national interest within British Columbia's jurisdiction. Because the first thing that happened is that David Eby came to a mic and said, wait a minute, if Alberta has a price of $130, but we still have the 170 and both of us are competing in the same markets, that gives Alberta an advantage over us. And I thought that we were supposed to be not doing that. And we have some projects of our own over here. All the attention has been on Alberta, and that pipeline west, Alberta. We would like some of that attention too. And I have a feeling that is going to be a course that goes across the province, so across the country. And one of the criticisms from this is that people are saying that the Prime Minister is rewarding bad behavior from Danielle Smith, that she extracted concessions by putting a knife at the neck of Canada, and a premier who seemingly wants to break up the country is basically establishing the national carbon price for the entire country. I kind of feel that way too, to be totally honest. However, I also have a feeling that the Prime Minister is like, she's doing all of that, but right now, the way she's going, there will be no pipeline. The way she's going, there will be no pathways. The way she's going, there will be no carbon reductions. The way she's going, the carbon price will never be more than $20. And if she finds a way to offset that to make it essentially zero, she would. You know what? If she thinks that she needs this to win, I have no problem giving that to her. I'm embedding the results. I'm getting Alberta to commit to an industrial carbon price that they'll actually stick by. I'm going to get them to agree to a carbon market that they actually have to stick by. I'm going to get them to agree to 130 that they actually have to stick by. And that's better. What we got And it's better that we would have gotten if they had kept on resisting what we've been trying to do. None of us have a crystal ball. We don't know how it will end up. But um, in many ways, not in the same ways, let's put it that way, different motivations and different roads to get there. But it happens to be that Daniel Smith's and the Prime Minister's priorities kind of align in certain ways. David Clement-Haga actually has an interesting article on that one that hopefully, if I'm not going over time, I can definitely read that into the record here for you here. The pipeline will be dependent on the Pathways Project, the largest carbon capture, utilization, and storage project in the world. Canada and Alberta reaffirmed their commitment that the project would achieve 16 million tons of annual emissions reductions, the equivalent of taking 90% of vehicles off the road in Alberta, while generating $16.5 billion in GDP, $12.2 billion in labor income, and up to 43,000 jobs annually. This confuses me because I keep on hearing something about that this was supposed to be 62 million tons of annual emissions reductions, and here it says 16. But when they were seeing 62, they were also saying that this takes the equivalent of 90% of the vehicles off the road in Alberta. So I don't know how this lower number reaches the same thing, unless if they say here 16 million tons of annual emissions, and this here let's say they are looking at a 4-year timeline, then 4 times 16 is 62. So they may have given an overall number of 62 for whatever for a 4-year term, but it turns out to be 16 million tons of annual emissions, and people just misunderstood. But even when in all the interviews that I've listened to where that question has been put to people, the answer given has been total and complete incomprehensible word salad. And I don't know. Nobody can seem to explain in a manner that at least that I can understand why the initial number was 62 and now it is 16. And how it is the reduction from 62 to 16 still results in 90% of vehicles off the road in Alberta being the equivalent of that. So like I said, by deduction, the only way I can think of is if 62 was a number given on a 4-year plan, which makes 16 million tons annual. But that should be that should have been easy to say in a response. To say, oh, well, that 62 number was total reductions over 4 years. So yes, when we say 16 million annual, it's the same thing. That's an easy answer that can be given in 10 seconds. And but that was not the answer given. So that part of this plan does legitimately confuse me, and hopefully over time, that will be clarified. What that mistake or what the discrepancy here is, but I do not understand it at the moment. It goes on to say today's implementation agreement delivers on key commitments under the Canada-Alberta MOU and builds on the agreement in principle on methane equivalency and the cooperation agreement on environmental and impact assessments reached earlier this spring. A methane equivalency agreement targeting the end of 2026 will lower emissions of methane in the oil and gas sector in Alberta by 75% below 2014 levels by 2035. And that, of course, methane is much more damaging GHG-wise than CO2. Let me just take a look here and get some data for you. How much more damaging is methane than CO2? Over a 20-year timescale, methane is 80 times more potent at trapping heat than carbon dioxide. However, because methane breaks down much faster in the atmosphere, lasting about 12 years compared to centuries for CO2, its warming impact drops about 28 times of CO2 over a 100-year period. So if you could I would have to ask Alex what the math on this one is, what that means. If you did that, yeah, I'd have to ask Alex. But at the moment, whatever methane there is or being issued right now is 80 times more potent. So if we're acting on that faster, we have a 2035 target for that. And a 2040 target for the other one. Again, it's trying to there's a conscious effort to try and attack the more potent sources of emissions first here, which is a pretty good thing in this particular case here. Together, we are strengthening carbon markets, building affordable, reliable, and clean electricity, and getting Canada's energy exports out to global markets. Rooted in cooperative federalism, this is a pragmatic, united approach to achieve our shared ambitions and create a greater prosperity for all Albertans and Canadians. And that thing here, when he says cooperative federalism, that is the answer that the Prime Minister is using a lot as well on the questions about Alberta separation, and a lot of people saying, like, why aren't you getting more involved, or why aren't you taking a harder stand on stuff like that? And it's like, now is sort of like not the time for that type of stuff. My job is to show that Canada can work by engaging in cooperative federalism, and just keep on giving example after example that this can actually work. So at the moment, that's where he's at. Of course, as times go on, there is definitely a role for the federal government to play. But at the present moment, why go out and say things that can be targets that other people can throw darts at, when you can just come out with this MOU and have Danielle Smith sit in front of Mike beaming and saying it's an honor to be standing here with the Prime Minister, rather than the usual. And hey, if that happens to make her unpopular with the separatists, and it kind of makes it such that maybe her days in politics are numbered, that's just a happy bonus. In it, the Prime Minister might be much more clever than the average bear here, if we get that as well. Let's see here. Let's see. Boom, boom. Kitlinda here. Oh, let's see here. Oh, there's a little bit of conversation here that looks pretty good here. Bringing here. I still support Carney, but I do not understand the strategy of another pipeline. My understanding is there's not a great business case for it. Certainly seems like a step backwards emissions wise. Let's see what else. I mean, Premier on the second last comment. Okay. I'm not sure what that is. Again, it's kind of hard to follow when I'm going back and forth. Kitlena goes, that's something Douglas has been going into about how the conditions Alberta has to meet for the pipeline will actually reduce their carbon emissions going forward. Douglas explained as well, sometimes I need to listen to a few different angles to information in order to grasp it all cobwebs. Yeah, me too, actually. Tavichi, to be totally honest, yeah, me too. Trust me. Because this is not necessarily my domain of expertise here, so I have to listen to a lot of sources and have it really broken down for me, and piece things together to get an idea. So yeah, absolutely. Don't worry about it. This is of all the plans and strategies that he has, this is one of the ones that is a little more complex to wrap your head around, just inherently so. The complexity of the thing is much higher, particularly with the MOU, the pipeline. One has to always understand that it's not just the pipeline, right? It's a whole suite of things, right? It is the methane reductions, and the pipeline, and the Pathways project, and the interties that will lead to more energy power, electricity generation in Alberta through nuclear, maybe shifting away gradually from using gas for electricity. There are a whole bunch of things that they go all together, right? So when Danielle Smith and Mark Carney speak of the grand bargain, like the pipeline is the thing that is getting all the attention, just like on the electrification thing, the Prime Minister said, the place that we are making for gas, and this is getting more attention, but compared to the scope and scale of investment that is coming in, it's like it should not be getting this much attention at the moment. So this is one of these situations. But yes, as Kitlina says, it's very complicated, and it's rather impressive how many balls Carney's juggling to get where it doesn't at first seem that he is going to go. Yeah, indeed. I agree with you here on that. So yeah, that's basically the main things of the main aspects of the MOU here. There is the text of the implementation agreement for those who want to read it, and I will definitely put a link right here for you. Um, it's uh, not ridiculously long, actually, and has some very interesting things specifically. Like, for example, uh, it is, they actually have like the full schedule. Like, for example, on carbon pricing, the headline price on carbon in Alberta, as set by Alberta through the Technology Innovation and Emissions Reduction Regulation System, or tier per ton of CO2 equivalent emission, will be $95 in 2026, 100 in 2027, through 2029, 115 in 2030, 118 in 31, 121 in 2032, 124 in 33, 127 in 34, and 130 in 2025, escalating 1.5% per year inflationary escalator starting in 2036, ending at $140 in 2040. And by that time, there will probably be other agreements that will be built upon that afterwards. So you have the schedules there as well, and then with the price floor, the minimum transfer price for the trade of credits will be. So you have that here. So the prime minister making the point here that credit systems only work if there's a scarcity, right? That there are fewer credits than there are demand, so that people are willing to pay more for them, which. Um, but they have to be less expensive, right? Than doing it has to be more beneficial uh, for the companies to seek the credits uh, than um, than to resist making the adjustments here. So there needs to be a floor. So that floor on the credits will start at $60 in 2030, rising gradually to 110 in 2040. And by the time we get to 2035, so 60 in 2030, 80 in 2035, and 110 in 2040. There. So for people who want to get into the details here, it really is agreed to in even more technical detail, and that document is included there. And I believe yes, I did put it in the chat for you, for those of you who want to know more about it and look at it. All right. I did mention the David Kleiman Haga piece here, and so I will try to bring it to you. He's had a lot of good ones lately, by the way. If you're not following him and you are really interested in knowing on what's going on here, particularly in Alberta, he's a really good recommended follow. It says here, and this is about the fact that Mark Carney and Daniel Smith have more objectives in common than they don't, even though they might have them for different reasons. It says here, there's no need to make the explanation of the carbon pricing, carbon capture, and bitumen pipeline deal announced Friday in Calgary by the federal and Alberta governments too complicated. It's actually pretty simple. After all, notwithstanding their political differences, Prime Minister Mark Carney and Premier Daniel Smith have more objectives in common right now than they don't, so it couldn't have been that hard for them to reach an agreement. Mr. Carney has served many years as an expert in senior representative in international finance capital, of which the oil industry remains a key component in Canada. While neither an expert nor a deep thinker, Ms. Smith has been a lobbyist for the oil industry and an effective public proponent of its preferred policies throughout her career as a journalist and politician. Of course, they weren't going to have all that much trouble finding ways to grant the Canadian oil patch its wish for a pipeline to the West Coast, preferably completely paid for by taxpayers, plus slow walked carbon taxes and big subsidies for the carbon capture boondoggle to build social license for the pipeline. They may have had their differences, but they are flying in formation when it comes to the oil industry. They have immediate parallel political needs as well. Miss Smith must thread the needle between appearing to be an Alberta separatist and appearing to be a patriotic Canadian unifier to hold her fraying but still united voting coalition together, and not incidentally to hang on to her job as premier, since separatists now clearly dominate her party. Friday's deal lets her do that, for the moment anyway, and the moment is all Miss Smith ever thinks about. To give her due, it seems to work. Mr. Carney needs to keep his coalition together as well. Instead of MAGA separatists on the right who would really rather be a part of the United States so they could own machine guns and call people hateful names, he needs to appease moderate Green voters in British Columbia and Quebec and somehow hold the country together. Since the contradictions of using bitumen as the glue to keep their political coalitions together will become more obvious over time, they're in a hurry to get the deal done, and some pipe laid so the doubters on both sides of the political spectrum can be told there is no alternative. For this reason, we should take seriously their promise that work on the pipeline, whatever route it takes, will start next year. The simplicity of this political equation seems to have confused the Canadian political and business commentariat, grown used to sustained attacks on Ottawa by conservative Alberta governments. Commentators' theories and explanations as a result were all over the map Friday and yesterday, sometimes with unintentionally hilarious results. According to Carson Jeremiah in the National Post, it's all a dirty trick by Mr. Carney to, quote, ensnare Daniel Smith in pipeline blackmail. Ottawa's gift of, quote, free rein to polluters, as Environmental Defense put it in a news release, quote, will give anti-energy BC Premier David Eby an effective veto, according to the Post. My word. Meanwhile, over at the environmentally inclined National Observer, Max Fawcett agreed, sort of. Mr. Carney isn't taking a wrecking ball to Canada's climate policies. He's saving the country by diffusing Miss Smith's constant carping about Canada. Mr. Fawcett asserted, quote, he understands the value of appearing to say yes to certain forms of economic development while creating or accelerating the conditions that will make it a non-starter. Post Media's Rick Bell, who often acts as a sort of de facto minister of propaganda for Miss Smith's United Conservative Party government, was enthusiastic, with mild reservations. Quote, Carney is the Prime Minister and Smith says there was no choice but to meet him in the middle, he wrote, leaving his usual breathless hyperbole to his colleague Don Braid. Quote, she figures this deal did just that, and it's a win for Alberta and a fie cry from those days of anger, frustration, and despair under Trudeau. Well, the last time Miss Smith said something like that about the Memorandum of Understanding with Ottawa that set the stage for Friday's deal, she was jeered at her own party's convention. And then there was Mr. Braid, Post Media's other high-profile Alberta political columnist, who went right over the top with a panegyric. And I have no idea what a panegyric is. It's one of the reasons I like David Kleiben-Haga. He's very good for my vocabulary. A panegyric is a formal public speech, text, or poem delivered to offer high, elaborate praise. It focuses entirely on celebrating someone or something's perfection, virtues, or achievements, generally without mentioning anything negative whatsoever. Okay, we've learned a new word. So Mr. Braid went right over the top with a panegyric to Miss Smith that would have seemed out of place that wouldn't have seemed out of place in the pages of Pravda or the People's Daily in 1950s. Quote, she has won every single battle with Ottawa over the past year, said Mr. Braid, sending his hosannas heavenward. In scope and importance, her victories against Ottawa outweigh former PC Peter Lougheed's limited victory in the oil pricing crisis after 1980. Smith may have set up this province for decades of economic gains. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. Well, if Mr. Carney is sneakily giving Mr. Eby a veto, British Columbia's premier doesn't seem too happy about it. And if Miss Smith is saving Confederation, you have to wonder why she's pushing ahead with her separatist referendum agenda. It seems to me that coastal British Columbians are as unhappy with the state of affairs as are Albertan separatists. And if anyone's thinking about the constitutional requirement for consultation with First Nations, no one seems to be talking about it. You have to wonder if, despite Miss Smith's best efforts to keep the UCP united, something's going to give as the separatists that now control the party push for it to officially declare itself to be a separatist party. Can political entropy in Alberta be far behind? And how comfortable will some members of Mr. Carney's narrow majority in Parliament be in a government that appears to have completely tossed the environmental policies of the Trudeau era, unlamented though they may be here in Alberta? Stephen Guilbeault, the former federal environment minister, BC MPs Will Reeves and Stephanie McLean, doesn't have to worry about Jonathan Wilkinson anymore because he's an ambassador. Is it possible that the biggest winner in this deal of the century could turn out to be Avi Lewis? Bum, bum, bum. Little bit of food for thought there. So yeah, kits and cups. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, the table is set. The concept of Carney putting together benchmarks that he know that Smith cannot accomplish, I believe is true in the sense of pre-road blocking her in finding ways to renege and not be of her word when it comes to seeing this through. But I don't think, whereas at the beginning, um, I was saying that it was genius on Mark Carney because he was putting the ball completely in her court, creating conditions that she probably, she would not be able to meet. I still do not believe that even with all of this, that she will have one proponent or a group of proponents that does not require any government money other than whatever amount would be taken by Indigenous people through the program that's been specifically established so that they can buy equity stakes in projects. They can finance that. Um, you know, um, but if we're talking about like no investment from the Canada Investment Bank needed, no money from whatever that sovereign wealth fund will be, no money from that money would come from investors from around the world that are coming to that conference in September, Canada Pension Fund, Teachers Federation pensions, that type of stuff. Maybe and especially not via a provincial crown corporation. Um, right. This is, we need something like that. We absolutely do need something like that. Uh, but the ugh, kind of, I really don't. uh, I need to think about the point that I'm trying to. I know what I want to say, but I'm not formulating it as eloquently as I would like to. So let me ponder that point that I'm trying to make a little more, and I might come back at it another way on another show because it's an idea that's just sort of popped into my head, but I'm trying to flesh it out on the fly, and it's not working out for me. At the moment, it's one of those things that is not a particularly hot take here. Um, but the table is now set, and she needs to find that proponent. Um, it would, if this does fail, right? It fails because Danielle Smith is not able to uphold her end of the deal. All next steps, right, that have to be completed by July 1st ish, if she doesn't need an extension, so that Mark Carney can recommend it to the major projects office and that they can do what they do. And they have a date for by like, I think, October 1st or something. So they're not giving themselves a lot of time here. I have a feeling that the meaningful consultation with Indigenous people portion of this is going to take longer than any of them are currently estimating and planning for. That would be my I would be I would put I would put let's say not money because I'm not a gambler, but in terms of cash, but um, um, I might ante up a chocolate chip cookie or a cup of hot chocolate on that might they might be underestimating the time it takes because the government side has been uh, learning but underestimating from the beginning the amount of time it would take for that and the amount of effort that is required. And like I said, the mere notion of sitting across the table with Indigenous people to negotiate these types of things appears to give the government of Alberta hives. So I have a feeling it might take a little longer. Unless the government of Alberta can come to the table rather correct, rather quickly, and uh, you know, not act in manners that are repulsive to the people they need to negotiate with right from the get go, that this is going to take some time. So, but, however, assuming everything gets in and everything is filed by the 1st, then and it meets whatever criteria, like everything's perfect and can meet the criteria. By October 1st, it looks like there will be um, either it will be approved to be taken on by the Major Projects Office, and then they will do what they need to do until the late 2027 date. I believe it's fall 2027, by which they expect ground to be broken in order to get that project fully through. I'm not sure if that means that it gets the approval from the Major Projects Office by October, or whether it means the Major Projects Office deems it as a project worthy of them taking on by October. That part I'm not completely sure there. But both of them, either way, wouldn't prevent the date, the 2027 date, unless there was something specific to the project that was an insurmountable delay or an unexpected curveball that nobody had planned for. That type of thing. But yeah, that's what we've got on that, kits and cubs for you. Some big news, big announcements, big developments. Like I said, over those past few days last week, like I said, there was lots of going on, right? When you talk about the discussion paper for creating a set of regulations for all projects, whether they be major projects or not, and it creates and maybe avoids gives people a path to avoid the potential toxicity of going through Bill C5, and then doubling the grid for electricity, and then the MOU. Those are three major announcements in a very short period of time. And then today, along with that, kits and cubs, because we talked about it this morning, there was the deal or the announcement having to do with the Nouveau Monde graphite project in the province of Quebec. Since I've got you here, let's see if there's. I know I saw the article pop up, but I came on the show to do it because that was announced around 12:10 today. So let's see here if there's any additional announcement here. Carney downplays Washington decision to pause bilateral defense board. Not surprised on that. Turns out that the board, that's a board that meets about once a year, and I think hasn't met since 2024 anyway. So it doesn't look like symbolically it's a thing, but in terms of what's happening, it doesn't look like it's a major loss here. There's an announcement that Agnico Eagle is to go ahead with the Hope Bay Gold Mine project in Nunavut. So hopefully we might have that for you tomorrow. Announcement a few hours ago that Canada's annual inflation rate rose to 2.8% thanks to soaring energy prices. Still way better than what's going on in the United States, and that was probably pretty much expected. Let's see here. There's nothing about the Nouveau Monde graphic. That's really surprising. Okay, well, we'll have to. There's nothing in the news yet, from what I can see, but there is a news release on it from the Government of Canada position. So I'll read that into the record, and probably we'll have more about that tomorrow. But it says here, Canada's new government launched the Major Projects Office last year to get major infrastructure projects, new ports, mines, trade, and energy corridors built faster. In 6 months, Canada's new government has referred to 22 projects and transformative strategies to the MPO, worth over $126 billion in investment, including Nouveau Monde Graphites, or NMGs, Matawin Mine, and Saint-Michel-des-Saints, Quebec. Today, the Prime Minister announced that construction is starting on this transformative project just 6 months after its referral to the Major Projects Office. Once completed, the Matawin Mine project will be the largest graphite mine in North America and in the G7, supplying up to 106,000 tons annually. Graphite is an indispensable component for electrical vehicle batteries, energy storage systems, advanced manufacturing, and defense aerospace technologies, with global demand rapidly outpacing supply. The Matawin mine will help position Canada as the reliable partner of choice for Asia, Europe, and beyond. Pierre Poilievre is going to have a lot of difficulty stating that he's created bureaucracies that don't do anything, because now we have 3 projects of the initial 5, I think, that were brought to the project's office that have started. Darlington has started. The Contrecoeur project expansion. Pardon me. The Port of Contrecoeur project expansion has started, and now the Matawin mine project for graphite extraction has started. And again, over the course of the summer, I think it is, we're going to have the Mackenzie Valley Highway project started. Again, this is what the Prime Minister needed. Some things quick, where shovels would get in the ground relatively quickly, that he could point to, while the bigger projects or longer term projects were happening and are going through the process, so that he can have things to point to, so to bring Canadians along and to show that the work is being done. He's been very strategic in the choice of projects here, and this is good. NMG will integrate the mine with battery material plant. NMG will integrate the mine with the battery material plant in Bécancour, Quebec, becoming Canada's first integrated graphite operation. From extraction to refinery, both the Matawin mine and the processing facilities will operate primarily on Quebec's low-cost renewable hydroelectricity, enabling an all-electric production model that significantly lowers greenhouse gas emissions compared to conventional graphite supply chains. This integrated low-carbon approach will reduce reliance on higher-emitting foreign sources. The Matawin mine will create more than 1,000 new jobs, from engineering to the skilled trades, attract nearly $2 billion in investment into our economy, and support lower emissions. By building more of the critical minerals value chain here at home, Canada will strengthen our battery and automotive sectors, reduce reliance on concentrated foreign sources of graphite, and position Canada as a reliable supplier of responsibly sourced graphite materials. To ensure this transformative project was built, the MPO convened 4 federal departments and agencies to coordinate financing, support commercial arrangements, and permitting. To ensure this transformative project was built, the MPO convened 4 federal departments and agencies to coordinate financing, support commercial arrangements, and permitting and approval processes, and secure offtake agreements for the company, including federal government stockpiling. This has helped the company reach a final investment decision less than 6 months after the project was referred to Major Projects Office. This is a nation-building project that will make Canada stronger, more secure, sustainable, and independent. And it says here that the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources says today Canada is delivering on its commitment to get major projects built, strengthening our position as an energy superpower and supporting the strongest economy in the G7. In November, we referred the Matawin mine to the Major Projects Office, and 6 months later, construction is underway to bring Quebec graphite to markets at home and abroad. This project will support advanced manufacturing, clean technology, and defense supply chains, while creating good jobs and long-term economic opportunities for Canadians. Shovels are in the ground, and our plan is working. Also want to note that this means that 2 of the first 5 projects that were referred to the office are actually operational in the province of Quebec. For people who are wondering if a Prime Minister has a strategy to try to keep Quebec voters on board, supporting the Liberal Party rather than going to the Bloc, this has something to do with it here. There's always political strategy. Always, 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 always. Yeah, some quick facts about the project. Government of Canada has entered into a 7-year offtake agreement for 30,000 tons annually of graphite concentrate from the Matawin mine, helping strengthen, secure, and reliable critical mineral supply chains for Canada and its partners. The offtake protects NMG from market variation at a critical time, while securing national graphite supply for Canada. The government will further support the project through a $459 million financing package from Export Development Canada and the Canada Infrastructure Bank, helping provide certainty to investors and accelerate construction while advancing Canada's strategic interests. This builds on a $113 million strategic commitment from the Canada Growth Fund, following CGF's previous $35.6 million commitment announced in December 2024 as part of a broader $411 million financing package along ENI SPA Investissement Québec and public equity financing. Canada's new government will provide $4.4 million through Natural Resources Canada's Energy Innovation Program to deploy an electric-powered Caterpillar 950 GC loader at the mine, replacing diesel-powered heavy equipment. In 2024, the Conseil des Atikamekw de Manawan signed an impact benefit agreement with Nouveau Monde Graphite that will enhance collaboration on aspects related to Atikamekw culture, the environment, training, employment, business opportunities, and financial benefits. The agreement sets out the significant participation of the Conseil des Atikamekw de Manawan to responsibly develop graphite in the Nitaskinan in a way that respects the environment and provides direct benefits to the community. Let's see, the Matawin mine was included in the first round of announcements under the Critical Minerals Production Alliance, a Canada-led initiative launched at the 2025 G7 Leaders Summit in Kananaskis, Alberta, to strengthen and diversify responsible critical mineral supply chains. And since the launch of the G7 Critical Minerals Production Alliance, Canada has announced 56 investments and partnerships to unlock more than $18 billion in capital investment for critical minerals project. And that Critical Minerals Production Alliance is the group of nations that want to get together to be able to mine and create refining capacity for critical minerals outside of China, because currently about 90% of the refining market is going through China. And again, this is a Canada-led initiative. When he went to Davos and said, it's what we can do together, this is one of the things, to sort of blunt the power of the hegemons. All right. Kids and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. And we hope that you loved listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. Kids and Cubs, if you would like to help us, you can do so in a few ways. One is by scanning this QR code, which will bring you to our YouTube page, where if you're not there already, you can click on our like, share, and subscribe buttons to earn the approval of Kits, Elaine, and Cassie, of course. Very important. And of course, help us with the algorithm. That also is very important. So please do so. And if you are watching on phone, not live, but within 7 days of the original broadcast, which is May 19th, if you swipe, I believe it is left on where you normally would write comments, you will see the option to give us hype points, and we would really appreciate it if you can, because it helps smaller networks like ours to gain some viewership. Also wanted to give you a little housekeeping note, Kids and Cubs. We have finally managed to retrieve our audio podcast account from Acast, because when the old network shut down, that there were supposed to be steps taken to transfer back the accounts to us. That did not happen in our case. So we've been talking with the people there, and we have it. So now, and we have some people, we are talking to some people about helping us to be able to get back into the audio podcast game. So now we actually have a place to upload the podcasts, or we soon will. And hopefully be able to transfer all the podcasts that we had before to the new space that will be ours to control and manage. And hopefully, if Acast is selling some advertising, hopefully we might be able to get a little revenue from that. That could help us, again, somewhat compensate with a little bit of honorariums, people who would help us get those shows out, because we really do need to get back in the game. But we are making some progress, so we just wanted to report on that, because we're very happy. Also, for those who've been thinking merch as well, we have a lead again that we do intend to pursue to find out. Of course, there's pretty much only me, so and there's only one of me, so it's not going to be a extremely expeditious process, but we now have options, which is better than we had before. So we are very happy to announce that is the case. And yes, Kit Tabby G, I did see that from you. Smaller programs are having trouble lately trying to promote. And you presented something from someone in the United States that has been indicating that it seems that however their shows are being promoted, their viewerships have declined substantially over the bit. We've suffered from that too. Normally, episodes that get easily close to 700, 800 views have been coming in with fewer than 200 after being on our feed for a whole week. And yeah, and again, with that Twitter thing that's been happening, that they've been blocking our ability to post new content and all of that. It seems that there's something. I didn't want. You kind of sound like you're paranoid or into conspiracy theories when you start mentioning it, but it seems that some of even the bigger networks, some with even like higher than 1 million subscribers and whatnot, they have noticed it too, that their viewership rates have just plummeted over the past few weeks. So, and the person there said that the strategy here is share it with as many people, share it all the time, expose the content to new eyeballs, because the more new eyeballs see that the content is available and click on it, the more it might give the people that are making the decisions the sense that, hey, people actually want to see this content, and they might lay off. So yes, please do. Kit Linda saying Sandy at Environmental Coffee House is having the same problem. Yeah, and it does appear to be centrist, progressive, more left shows that are being particularly targeted here, which could terminate the ecosystem for a lot of people, because there's a lot of people that are just barely starting to make a living off that, particular bigger networks, if they actually have some journalists that they pay. All of that goes away. On our front, because we are primarily self-financing and financing through you, and because I basically do this out of my home, and we don't have huge high production value costs, we will be able to sustain this. So long as I'm willing to put my own money into it, I guess. We can sustain this. But yeah, it's it's a big hit. It's a big hit. We've noticed the drop in viewers, and what the corresponding drop in revenue is, and it's not funny. It's not. It's not funny, and it's not fun, and I am not prepared to do the sensational title and screaming and yelling and making wild claims in order to seek engagement. That's not what we do. So. Um, Again, we are taking the longer road and the tougher road, but people seem to be insisting on increasing the incline for us. But hey, one thing about being born on May 19th is that you're a Taurus, and we Taurians are stubborn as F. So it's going to take a lot for them to shut me down. I'm pretty persistent. So, and this is one of the reasons why we want to get the podcasts back out again. Get that subscriber base, get our Acast account if they're selling advertising, get the revenue from that. We might even, fingers crossed, be working on our first advertiser, paid advertiser. So if we can get a little bit on that, we're working on the things, because we have dreams, we have aspirations, we want to grow, and we want to keep on building this community that we have for you, and we want to bring you other shows and other voices eventually over time. We have a dream, baby. We have a big dream. But yeah, if you cannot contribute financially, and if you have nothing more to say to us about how it is that we can improve the show and all that kind of stuff, eyeballs, just share our stuff. That's the best way to help us out of this particular thing. And when I'm saying things are dropping, I'm talking like monthly revenues dropping by 2/3 overnight. So it's a big hit. There's a lot of initiatives that are going to go under if this persists for a while. All right. Kid Toronto Dan, I predict by October you will believe that. Like I said, we are not in trouble because our costs are low, and like I said, this is my hobby as well. Right. So I mean, I am. I can spend my money on this, or I can spend my money on other things. I choose to spend my money on funding this. It is a hobby, but right, help is always appreciated. That's all I will say. And people are trying to make the road tougher. Um, money or not, uh, you still want to feel that you're not screaming into a wind tunnel, right? You know, when you think of the time for the research and doing the show and whatnot, to uh, be getting 199 sets of eyeballs 6 years in can be deflated, for a lot of people, and discouraging. And then when you add the financial burden on top of that, so yeah, it does seem that there is a concerted effort at the moment, unfortunately. Um, Hopefully, this too shall pass, and hopefully, we will stand strong. Um, because democracy is something. Oh, sorry. Maybe I should not jump that. Jump to the if you want to contribute financially portion. Kind of important. But if you would like to help us financially, Kits and Cubs, this QR code will bring you to the Emergency Hydration Fund or our tip jar here at the Beaver Lodge. You can set yourself up for a one-time donation or a recurring monthly donation. Those are very much appreciated. And if you go there, we get 95 to 97% of your donation. We have stickers, super chats, and memberships on YouTube. Thank you to all of you who buy memberships here, who sustain your memberships month after month. That is a stable base of revenue for us, and the stable base of revenue that you are providing through that does ensure that we are able to cover our internet connection and our Restream account at least for the entire year. So because if the people are contributing now continue to contribute for the rest of the year, that part of our operations gets completely taken care of by what you donate to us, and it means a lot. It's significant. So thank you, thank you very very much. And if you do have the option, and if it's not too difficult, please keep it coming. But no, I just want you to know the impact that you're having. It does cover, if we don't have our streaming platform and we don't have our internet connection, we don't have a show. So we're on air thanks to you. You fuel us, you power us. Let's put it that way. The show is powered by you, literally. So yes, that will bring you to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there you can make your contribution. And of course, if you're doing the Buy Canadian thing, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. And there you can make a transaction that goes from your financial institution to ours. And there are no service fees. And we get 100% of your donation. None goes to the US CE Tech Bros. And that's a good way to do something good, help a show you like, and help people that you like while flipping the bird to people you don't like. just for the cathartic value alone, it's worth the donation. Yes, you are Beaver fuel. Not only for our internet connection, but again, hot chocolate, Beaver Moisture. This Beaver daily hot chocolate, very very important part of an essential part of every day. All right, Kids and Cubs. Because well, let's do it. I know I just did it this morning, but because democracy is something that you do it a little briefly here today, since you've already heard it, most of you. But we do have two petitions for you, Kids and Cubs. House of Commons petition E7395, which asks the House of Commons to make it such that we no longer fund Stornoway. So that one is put up there for you, Kids and Cubs, and you can help with that. Since we did our show this morning, ooh, look at that. Almost 10 extra signatures on that one today. And the other one, of course, Kids and Cubs, is House of Commons, rcommons.ca, petition E-7340. And I will put that link in the chat right here. Boom. And let's see. And that One is for referring the constitutionality of Alberta's Justice Statutes Amendment Act 2025 to the Supreme Court of Canada and direct the Foreign Influence Transparency Commissioner to immediately investigate the meetings between the Alberta Prosperity Project and the Trump administration. And since we were on this morning, that one has gained a couple signatures. Can't tell you how much because I just refreshed it before checking, but we're now at 23,300 on that one. So that one's proving to be rather popular. There you go, kits and cubs. If you are in British Columbia, remember you have until the 30th, if you are a member of the BC Conservative Party, to get your vote in for the party leadership. And if you are in Alberta, there's going to be a day of protest on the 29th of May. And it seems that there's one being arranged in Ontario for the next day, the 30th, against Doug Ford. So lots of opportunities to get out there and protest, make your voice heard, make your displeasure known. All right. I see something here in the Kit Tabby G asking, just curious if you get notified if you receive a direct deposit. Yes, we do. We do get notified. It comes to our email address at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com when one is there. And pretty much, it's pretty much instant. When you make it, we pretty much get the notice within minutes. So yeah, there you go. Any other questions about that? Just taking a little look here. Apparently it is the rain is blowing sideways in waves wherever Kitlinda is. I'm guessing, if I remember correctly, that is Windsor, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like we are going to have more stuff, more rain coming in. Oh yes, and of course, yes, Kit Lane reminds us that for those of you who are giving us hype points, you can only hype 3 times per week. The morning show at 5 in the afternoon, Versatile Beaver. Oh dear, 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 darling Linda. Versatile is a word that is very popular in our community. We'll just leave it at that. You always get me to be dirty. I'm in between Chatham and Sarnia. Okay, perfect. And you have a generator. Good. All right, kids and cubs. That's all I got for you today. Oh yes, I guess I didn't do the words of wisdom. I don't know. I don't have any words of wisdom. I don't have that much of it, and I already dispensed it this morning. So eat more fruit. There you go. There are my words of wisdom. I'm sorry. I'm dry at the moment. It could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs. So please be kind too. Gentle with yourself. Ketlin is making me laugh here. Oh, I know what versatile means to the rainbow community. You make me naughty, and I like it. I like it. All right, kids and cubs, may I please have a little audience participation at the count of 3? Can I please get you to say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the birthday cock on 1, 2, 3. Let me hear you. Once again, cock and cake on my birthday twice. My cup runneth over. And since you asked so nicely, here you go. Here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo, twice for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. here? There you are. A little bit of Canadians who make us proud. Going to our athletes. Canada defeated Amsterdam's 1917 in the final of the FIBA. That's Federation International of Basketball or International Basketball Association. Don't remember what FIBA is, but it's basketball. The FIBA's 3x3 women's series in Shanghai. The third stop of the series marked the first appearance of a Canadian team this season. The quartet, composed of Paige Crozon, Catherine Plouffe, Marissa Russell, and Tara Wallach, advanced through the tournament undefeated, thanks in part to MVP Russell, who finished first in the tournament with 33 points, 7 of which were scored in the final. And here we have some very, very, very happy people to show you here. Let's see if it's appearing on the screen right now. Nope, not yet. Things are freezing here. Okay. Don't know why I have frozen. Hello? There we go. That was very, very strange. But here we are. We have some very...
倒数时间3、2、1 Congratulations! Winner is Team Canada!
Okay. Didn't know it was going to do that. Sometimes you're not supposed to click the button, kids and cubs. Sometimes you don't click the button. But there we go. Those were the winners there. And it says here, the win against Amsterdam was far from a simple affair, with the team from the Netherlands getting in front quickly at the start of the game and also later on when they led 15-11 and looked like eventual winners. This was before Canada fought back to a 17-16 lead, only to see opponent Zoe Slagter force overtime in the last seconds of the match. Russell eventually scored 2 free throws to give Canada their first FIBA 3x3 women's series title of the season. The next stop will be June 12th to 14th in Vienna, Austria. Canada's roster for that tournament is not yet confirmed. All right. And let's see, one more. Canadian shot put star Sarah Mitten finished third at the season opening Diamond League meeting in Shanghai on Saturday. No one in the field had thrown beyond 20 meters before the fifth round. The competition then came alive with a series of big marks. Two-time world indoor champion Mitten threw a season best of 20.42 meters for her longest distance of the day, and that was good enough for third. Today's results exceeded my expectations, said Mitten, the lone Canadian competing in Shanghai. I think the tough flights and long trips were worthy. My performance was quite solid today. This is just the second meeting of the season. So there you go. Big news there. All right. That's all I got for you today. I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully at the regular time. Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll also get the engine for our car. But until then, amour et bisous, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.